Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Arts Respond on WNHHLP 103.5 FM. I'm Lucy Gellman. I'm a little bit sick, but I can't give any of you what I have over Zoom. So we are here. We're happy to be here on this beautiful Friday. And today, my guest is Gritz King, Stephen Gritz King, and we are talking about his new album, Conversations. If you recognize that track, it's called Saving Time. And is it the first track? I should know this because I was listening all morning.
It's the second one. It's the
The
second track.
second track. Awesome. So first of all, welcome, I should say welcome back to Arts Respond. You were here in really the first months of the pandemic in 2020 when
Oh
we
yeah.
still thought this thing was going to be a couple of months and then we were going to be out of it. Clearly, that is not what
Clearly.
happened. Yet we're still in it. Someone just told me we were in the fifth wave, and my heart just sank. It like sank all the way. Like whatever your heart sinking past your stomach is, that's what
hmm
happened. Um, so, so welcome back, and I
Thank
would
you.
love to talk about this gorgeous album and the work that went into it, but also, so yes, I mean the musical work that went into it, but also the sort of spiritual and emotional work that went into it. So I'm wondering if you can just situate our listeners in, in the thoughts going into writing and composing and then performing, recording this music.
Yeah. So this was my first. I think I've shared this somewhere. It was my first project, body of work where like it was intentional from the beginning. Like it had a theme. My other works were called the Breakfast EP and Morning Music, and those were more so just to play on my name, Grits. Grits and music that you can like drive along to, but they were just songs I had and just kind of threw them together and put it out. Whereas this one, I had a theme. I remember writing, maybe like last year, I wrote in my notes on my phone like seven different album ideas, right? Just like the general thoughts that came to my head. One was like traditional jazz. Some of them said introspective. One like I just had different categories, and then uh conversations came out of one of those. And because I wanted to be intentional, I never wrote intentional music, or I never wrote intentional project. I would say I just kind of made music and then like, oh, this will go good on a project. So conversation was the first one. I said, I it's a theme. There's a theme to this, and I'm gonna write all the music after I have this theme, which is what happened. Opposed to just let me pull from this what I had and I just put it in. You know.
So I want to talk about the process of writing because I love talking about that. But I love a good love story, right?
hmm
So I want to bring your wife into this and talk about her and how your relationship has bloomed because I know that that is also part of this process.
Yeah. My wife is dope. My wife is the coolest person I know. She's probably the best person I know. And since we reconnected in 20 in the like the later part of the summer of 2019, like it's just changed. We connected, we were friends. As she says, I was in the friend zone. So from there into court getting to liking each other officially to courting to engagement. It's like um she's definitely been a strong reason on my change. Me as changing as a person. Definitely on getting my relationship with God back together. I've always been going to church. Um, yeah, shout out Shaniqua King. If you need a black trauma therapist, a beautiful woman of God and a trauma therapist, hit her up, please. But yeah, she brought me back because I always went to church when I was younger. It was just kind of a thing. I knew who God was. I believed in God, but like I don't think I ever like had a relationship, which is the most important thing. So being with her, and it's not like her telling me to do this. It's just watching who she is and who she was because we dated in 2014 for like 7 months, and fast forward to 2019, 5 years later, she was just a completely like different person. same essence, same Neek, but she was a different person. And I noticed like, oh, this is why all the things she's doing. She was never like you need to do this. It was just kind of like I just see it. So for me, it was like you can't be around somebody like that and just stay the same. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I think that was the thing that pushed me because like also like for any of my believers, like you can't come into the presence of God. He can't come in your life and you just remain the same. Just it doesn't work. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I think anybody he touches, if you're around them and you allow yourself to really get close to them, you're gonna have to change. So that's what happened. That sparked my thing. She was supporting my music. She was the first person to support my music in a way out of anybody I've been with romantically. That said, you don't need another job. Like you know what I'm saying? I don't need to have a backup. She said, if you're a musician, if you're an artist, then that's what you are. You gotta put the effort in. You have to do it. But if this who you are, then be who you are. So that kind of sent me in a place to where like I am now. It's been
And
yeah.
oh yeah, and it was part of that also. So I know that I've talked to some people who say that when they change their relationship with God or whatever higher being they subscribe to, but also when they change their church family, or maybe it's not a church family, maybe it's a synagogue family, a mosque family, a temple, that really marks a huge shift in their life, and they're
Mhm.
able to redefine themselves. Was that true for you? Or is this a relationship that you feel like you are forging also outside of a building? Because, Vicky Flippin, she's a pastor in New Haven, says this thing that I love, which is the church is not, and it's never been the building. The church is the people.
Right. And I wholeheartedly believe that. Um, because Jesus didn't Jesus wasn't in the building. You know what I'm saying? He was out with the people. He was out around the people who back at that time didn't fit the mold of what they assumed, you know what I'm saying, the church people to be. So and I think this only way to reach people and reach people who may not have the chance to know him, or you have to go out, you have to be out. So for me, I mean, I've been in my church for long, I still play for my church, but my growth didn't happen because of my church. You know what I'm saying? And my relationship grew outside of it, and now it's come back into my church for me. I have a different connection with my church, but yeah, it came from outside. So like, I would love to give them credit, like, yeah, St. Paul's, you did it, but it wasn't them. And no shade, it just wasn't. But I'm glad I have it, and now when I'm in there, I just see things different. I take things in differently. But yeah, it definitely changed my way of
Yeah.
thinking.
And I mean, I'm also curious. We've been through, and you talked about this with Brian Slattery, so I feel like I can bring it up. Shout out Brian. I
Oh,
feel
Brian,
like shout out Shaniqua, shout out Jesus,
right,
because he was radical, right? Like
right,
I I feel like in the best interpretations of Christianity and of the Bible that I hear, people really do acknowledge that Jesus was like out there. He would have been marching. He would have been, like he would have been marching with New Haven Public School students yesterday for
right,
mental health. He was all for healing the sick, healing the poor. He would definitely be angry that the pandemic hasn't been treated differently in this country, I think.
right.
And also shout out Brian Slattery. But you experienced a lot of loss during the pandemic, and I also want to acknowledge like we are still in this thing.
Right,
Um, and you didn't stop believing.
right. Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So I'm glad. Like, so when they say God works in mysterious ways, it's really not just a saying. It's truly something because if I had it the way I see it, right? Because the biggest loss for me, we lost four people, in a span of like 3 or 4 months, from May to July, I think. Actually, was when we lost. Um, but I think about it sometimes, like if I hadn't reconnected with Neek and say I hadn't started restarted my relationship back with God in 2019, I think 2020 would have broke me. Like the law, if we were still going to experience the type of losses, think 2020 would have devastated me, and just sent me spiraling. You know what I'm saying? Like sent me spiraling to stuff I wasn't supposed to be doing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Back then I was like smoking weed. I was doing a whole bunch. You know what I'm saying? I think all of that would have just doubled and just pushed me further away from it doesn't mean it didn't hurt. So a story. I don't think I've ever said this to anybody outside of like my family, my wife maybe, but like when my brother passed away that day, because we were sharing a car, and so that day was my turn to go to the house and pick him up. So I went to go pick him up. He wasn't coming outside, late like always. So I went inside, and then I found him. And when I found him, it was I was a shock. I ran, all the people, tried to do CPR, all that type of stuff, and then in the moments between them showing up and me calling him, hanging up, and waiting for him to come, they were like 5 minutes out. Like it's so strange, but I just thank God. And people may hear it like thank God, but it's not thank God that my brother passed, but it's just like yeah, it was like there is a reason for this. I don't know the reason for this. I'm pissed off. I'm hurt, sad, but this is it's something. I believe in you, sort of something. So I just throw my hands up. I thank you. I'm in the room. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like I thank you, God. I don't know what this is for, but I'm gonna say that now before I let anything else come ahead of it. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I meant it. So it wasn't just to say like I meant it, but yeah. So I think if I had the strength to say that, or even the thought to say that, um, I think that is just a testament to like where he was going with me and what all that was going to do, because it surely how as it came there was a reason. You know what I'm saying? I'm starting to see where the reason was. My brother used to always say, yeah, I'm gonna like to my parents, because he had a little rough time. So he would say to my parents, I'm gonna look out for you. One day I got you. One day I got you. I'm gonna get it right. I got you. And lo and behold, I didn't realize it, but for months after he died, they didn't have to buy food. You know what I'm saying? For months after they died, everything was kind of taken care of. And although it seems crazy, it's like, wow. That's one of the things that I realized, like, wow, like through this hard time, my brother was able to keep that promise, right? Or it was some type, and then just other silver linings came. My family got closer. So it was just like all these things that don't seem like something in the beginning, but in hindsight now, 2 years later, I'm like, wow, it sucks, but there's a reason, and I don't think I would have been here if that hadn't happened. So yeah, it's just crazy. It's crazy.
Um, wow. Yeah. And so then you're in this place where clearly your relationship with God is and was at that time even very strong. You decide to intentionally work on this music. Take me through that process, because music can be a great catalyst, a great place for catharsis.
Hmm.
But I know that some musicians go to the dark place in their writing, even if they're not intending to.
Hmm.
Like it puts them back in a maybe a dark place, a scary place, and sounds like maybe for you this had the opposite effect.
Yeah, and when it comes to writing music, like I know my process is different. I never considered myself a writer because a lot of my music doesn't have like lyrics, right? It's just is, and that in my head, that's what I think of when I think of people who are writing music. Um, but overall, like any music I've created and I guess written has been, oh, it just started from a place of like feel good. If it doesn't feel good to me, then I'm not really gonna be feel comfortable putting it out to anybody. So even though this this project had a lot more depth in it as far as like my thinking going into it, like because I still wanted to feel good, but like I had to put some stuff in there. I think that essence of it still being here is good. So like I want people to know like yeah, this was a hurtful time or whatever, but like what I'm taking out of it isn't just the sour parts of the pain. You know what I'm saying? Like it's acknowledging like yes, this wasn't good. Like one of my songs up there, the last song is called "A King Soliloquy," and that's dedicated to my brother. It's like our thoughts, my thoughts and his thoughts, and even in the music, you can hear it change. In the beginning, it's kind of like um, it's not a lot going on. The music, the beat is there, the saxophone is here and there. It's just kind of like here, right? And I kind of take that as like me speaking, me like you left, like what the heck is going on, right? And then at the end of the song, the second half of the song, where it's like a choir of saxes. All that is like his thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Our conversations, or like in a kind of a sense, like it's gonna be it's gonna be okay. Like I understand, like how do I explain it? Going from like a single thing. So in the beginning of the song, it's like a single sax, maybe two saxes, and then it's like the support of the rest of the saxes in this beautiful line that's happening and this kind of flirting, and like I cried at the end of hearing it when I played it back. Like my wife and I, before I sent it out everywhere, we sat down, listened to the whole thing, and I cried at the end of it because like I actually, you know what I'm saying? I was thinking. So when I was making, I was thinking of him. My cousin listened to it and he told me that he teared up at the end of it, that they were close, you know, and it's like wow, and it's still good. It's not like, oh, I'm so angry. It's just like this is sad, but it's sad being sad over something beautiful, and it's like it just has this weird but beautiful like combination. So to hear somebody else feel that, I'm like, wow. And you knew my brother, y'all were close as well. So it's just like it was proud. I was proud. I was able to get that out over something that was still my sound. So I didn't have to go left and just, oh, this doesn't feel good. It just sounds sad. It's like this still feels good, but it's just yeah.
And do you share your music with other members of your family? I remember watching you perform actually with many people, including the late great Ron Lawrence last summer
Mhm.
in Hampton. And I was in the middle of an interview, and someone said, "Well, my nephew Gritz is on stage," and I was like, "Oh my God, Gritz is your nephew! I'm so happy." Um, but do you share your music pretty widely with your family, or do you hold on to it until it really feels perfect, and then you sort of let it go into the world?
um I've been a hoarder. I'm a hoarder when it comes to music. I think that lately, the only person that's really been hearing my music is my wife. Like I'll go up to like, what you think it is? And you know what I'm saying? But I realized that was also part of my problem. You know what I'm saying? So conversations, I had a lot of these songs written for this, like since sometime last year, but I've been sitting on them. You know what I'm saying? And which was my issue because I was going through the whole imposter syndrome. Uh, you should be better than where you are. All these stupid little thoughts that were flying in and out my head, which will cause me to stop. Right. So also like part of my walk with God was realizing like people are going to like you gave me a gift and I'm actually working in that gift. I'm practicing a lot more, you know. So who am I to just not do anything with it? Especially if you're telling me put it out. You know what I'm saying? So um I just had to realize like I gotta stop worrying about what people think and just appreciate the music that is here. And I have to start letting it out more. So like I think you're gonna start seeing more music from me um on a consistent basis. Um I'm just trying to figure out what that looks like. So it won't be like an album a month, but maybe two full albums within a year and then some singles or something like that, you know, but like just making sure I'm putting the music out.
I so I want to talk about production and the fact
Mhm.
that this is you, like this is wholly you. But before we do that, I'm wondering, Harry Droz, who is the man behind the controls, if we can play just a little excerpt of the King's Soliloquy. Fritz, if you're cool with that too.
Yeah. Can you play? I'm gonna tell you if it's cool if I could tell the time.
Please,
Yeah, the
100%.
I just want to say the time, 'cause I want people to just hear that part I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Um, so let's see. So from if you can play from 145, minute 45, I believe that starts it.
And Harry, we're talking about A King's Soliloquy. It's track 7 on the album. And if you can play it from a minute 45, please. Thank you so much. And Harry draws everyone. He keeps us going.
Yeah. So this part right here is like a call and answer, kind of single sax going, and then the answer is
Like, need a little minute for that.
mhm.
This is community radio, everyone.
The best radio, community radio.
It is the best radio. Let me make sure Harry.
Oh, here you go.
Wow.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you, Harry. When you do you hear something different in your own music every time you hear it, or at this point, is it just like it's part of you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there. Yeah, so I think it's sometimes a little both. I think it's definitely a part of me. I know it's coming, but depending on the day,
Mm.
even just now when I started listening, I was like, oh, I think this is gonna get me. It came back in, but just hearing it because I often don't like to say like, oh, this is beautiful if it's something of mine. Not trying to. 'Cause I don't want to sound arrogant, but also getting over the fact that like that doesn't always mean that. So I think that's beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Just the line, and I was telling my wife, I eventually want to have that song done live, performed live with like strings, more horns to make it big. You know what I'm saying? Just because I feel like this is only like the beginning of where it can go, and that emotion that's inside of it is not going to change. So seeing like how far I can stretch, or how big I can make the sound to like touch even more people. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it's going to include. I just don't play violin, viola, double bass, but or cello. But if I did, that will be in it because it just is so much bigger than I can make it at the moment by myself. But I eventually want it to be there with the whole album, but especially with this, because I feel like if people hear it in different instruments, they give way to different textures, and I feel like sometimes different textures in music can create such a different sound. So I can play something on a piano by itself, and it may touch somebody. But if I play something and I add a vibraphone to it, and I add a trombone, trumpet, and the saxophone in harmonies, it just you know what I'm saying? It does something to the same sound that was on the piano, and I just don't want to have to do anything. I don't want to, I want to squeeze everything I can out the bottle.
I, I also don't think I don't think you could ever sound arrogant if you tried.
Oh,
That was one thing
thank
that you said earlier. I just I don't see a world in which you could sound arrogant.
you. Thank you.
But I also want to talk about how this was produced, because for you this was a major step, not only in writing really intentionally, but in production. And unless I'm mistaken, so we get a cameo from Trey Moore.
Yeah.
Shout out Trey Moore.
Shout
We
out
love
Trey.
him. Another just like massively talented musician in New Haven. But otherwise, it's you.
Mhm.
It's you. And so I want to talk about the trajectory as both a musician and a producer that you've had in really like the last ten years, maybe a little more than 10 years. When did you
Mhm.
graduate from co-op?
2010. So 12, yeah, 12 years.
12 years. Okay. Yeah. I'm old, so I'm older than like that. I feel like there was a magical class of co-op grads and you were part of it. Um, but yeah, yeah. But tell me about your evolution as a producer, because I feel like I've just seen you out there working, grinding, writing, and gigging, which is so much of it.
I appreciate that. Um, so in co-op, well, 2010, um, I think my mind was definitely a different place. My mind was, okay, I play the saxophone, so I'm going to be on stages, touring, playing saxophone, being a saxophone player in the studio, being a saxophone player for people, because I didn't really understand. Like I feel like a lot different parts of my life were like literally shut or closed off. Somebody put like a cardboard box in front of my face, because when I realized something, I was like, wow, how come I feel like, how come there was just no thought of that even being around? And production was one of those things. Um, so I have friends like Abe Blisman, G Blizz, who's a phenomenal guitar player, but a crazy producer. And back then, he was a year ahead of me, class of '09. He was already onto that. He already had an idea, knew what he wanted to do. And for me, I used to look at him like, but like you play guitar, I thought like anything else outside playing guitar was not playing guitar. You know what I'm saying? So, um, even through college, through a good most of college, like I just my head wasn't even there. I was studying jazz at Westcon for like a year and a half, and then got lazy and scared, so I quit and I did something else. But it wasn't until like 2015 where I really was like production. So I tried, I got some stuff and I was horrible. I was absolutely horrible at it. But I realized, I think it clicked for me at that time. The cardboard was like taken out of my face, because I was like, this is what Gabe was doing. You can create, like he's creating. So it's not like something's being taken away. It's like, oh, I can just do all of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not just giving my sax there. I'm like, because I heard music in my head, but I hear this music in my head. So now production is just putting it down. And because I don't produce for people right now or anything. I'm just still learning my own sound. It's like, this is what I hear. I could put it down, and then I could put my sax on top of it, and it could be a song. It could be this. So I think I got the bug. I started in 2016, 2015. I got the bug in 2016. I put out my first song called "Running," and I took it down like 3 months later, because I realized just how bad it was. As far because I rushed, I didn't understand. I had a friend named Jovan Reverend or Buford Mallory. He used to live in New Haven. He's up in Boston now. Um, he was a producer, heavy, and I remember sending my song to him thinking he was just gonna like mix it or play with it, and he did what a producer would do. he took something that was here and put it here. And in my head, I was like, but I wanted it there. And I realized later it sounds better because the producer can say, let me arrange this. I see these parts, I can arrange this. So I started taking that into consideration as I started getting better and was like, okay, I'm not limited. So I got to stop limiting myself. I got to stop limiting um and what's the word? I got to stop limiting and compromising my sound just because I don't want to have to re-record something. So I had to learn patience. But overall, I think I found my voice. I was like, okay, I can create. I can like literally I hear this in my head. I have the ability now, thank God, to put it down. And then I have more of the understanding to tweak this, move this. I don't have to be married to this one thing. I could try it out. You know what I'm saying? So I think through a lot of trial and error, I found it got to where it's at now. If I still had the song, Lucy, the old song somewhere, I would have showed you. And then it would have been like, I can definitely hear the difference. But yeah, it took some time. And I think it's because I didn't have the idea of what production was from the beginning.
Mhm. Sorry. That also makes me wonder about New Haven. I mean, do you feel like, because I think one thing you're talking about is the importance of the freedom to experiment and to
Right.
make mistakes.
Right.
And do you feel like New Haven gives artists that space? And I want to say before COVID, we had the Jam, which never had bad music. Like I never, it was actually some of the best music I'd ever heard in New Haven.
Mhm.
Um, but I feel like it was opened up as a space for musicians just to experiment with no judgment. You
Right.
know, do we still have those places? Do you feel like we still have those places?
Um, I think the Jam was. I personally think the Jam was one of a kind. There may be talks of things coming back, which would be a beautiful thing. But because we've had jams prior to that, like we've had things at PST years and years ago. Um, but that was also different because PST. So anybody could come. Anybody, if you're on the street, like, I used to play guitar 37 years ago. I haven't played in 37 years, but let me come in. They could come up on a stage, and sometimes, if they weren't connected to what was going on, it wouldn't be the same type of like synergy on the stage, right? And um and it was cool because we can adjust, everybody can adjust. But I think we realized that, so when the jam started, Paul, shout out to Paul, Brian Hudson, and Jeremiah Fuller. um the formula they had was not necessarily anybody in the world could come on, but at the same, it was such a fine line because we didn't tell anybody he couldn't come on, but it was kind of built into where like the people who happened to get on, they were cycled in, so the music never stopped. You know what I'm saying? And it was kind of like get in. So now it kind of puts people in the space of not stopping and saying, "So what do you guys want to play?" What it's something that was going on. So then whoever came on, I think it was probably something like if they didn't feel it, like I can't feel where I would be in there. Not even on a I don't belong. Just like I don't feel it right there. I'm not gonna go on stage. And then maybe that same person next week will go, oh, I feel where I can be in here. So we created a sound, and because we didn't stop the music as people were switching, it allowed people to come in and give what they needed to that sound to contribute to that. You know what I'm saying? No matter what style of music they played, it's like, all right, well, I feel like I have something to contribute to this, so let me go up there, and it just flowed and flowed every time we had it. It was beautiful, and I think it was experimentation. A lot of it because like a lot of us we play together all the time. A lot of us are great friends. Um, but it was a space where like we can try stuff out, and if it wasn't good, it was masked in such a great way, or it wasn't. It was just like it's a jam, so it wasn't anything that anybody was like, "Oh, that was bad." It was like it is what it is, and I think because the space was how it was, if there was something that was bad, it felt right just because of what was going on, the energy that was going on in front of music or anyway. So yeah, I think the jam was one of a kind because I don't think there are a lot of jams happening like that at all.
No, I don't think so either. And then so I do want to get back to the album, but I also want to ask you, I feel like I see you gigging pretty consistently in like five different rotating groups. Maybe it's five, maybe it's six, I don't know. Um, do you feel like what you're able to learn from other musicians became part of this album as well?
Yeah, I will say, because technically, so I'm really only with one group, like where it's like I'm with them, like, and that's Fat Astronaut. Um, and I think they've definitely helped. Being in that group definitely helped because I didn't consider myself a keyboard player necessarily, and that was part of my old the back when I told you I didn't know what production was. That whole phase of things with me was I limited everybody. I limited myself, everybody. So if I saw you playing the keyboard or piano, that's just what I saw you. Oh, he's a piano player. So when I saw somebody doing something different, I was like, it like blew my mind. Like, wow. So for me, I even separated myself. Like, yeah, I can play some piano, but I'm a sax player. Don't call me a piano player. And because I would just limit myself, so breaking that, and I had to break that to get to be in Fat Astronaut. So it wasn't as heavy when I got to Fat Astronaut, but it was still in the back of my mind, like that way of thinking. And Fat Astronaut allowed me to find my sound as a keyboardist because everybody was in there bringing their own thing. If you heard it, I know you've heard the music. If anybody's heard Fat Astronaut music, it works. And usually it would be like, why does this work? Because these are so many different elements. A lot of the music is something that like I wouldn't have thought I would have been playing, but it works because we all bring ourselves. And then so I've learned my sound, with Fat Astronaut, and I think that's helped me because now I have more confidence when I was making some of this music. I hear different things than I probably would if I hadn't played with Fat Astronaut. I know things can work. Also, like Fat Astronaut, a lot of our songs are just like, let's try it, and then it happens to work. So it helped me not limit myself with things that may have been outside of what I would thought I would have done, and it helped me to not think so much about what people want to hear because that's a lot of my hesitation at times. Like, man, well, people want to hear this 2 years ago, 3 years ago. That was my thoughts. Well, people want to hear this, and then I'm learning just to be like, oh, it doesn't matter. Whoever's supposed to hear it will hear it, as long as it's coming straight from me.
Yeah. Yeah. And shout out to, I feel like it would be hard to be in a band with Chad Brown Springer and not be inspired to do a little bit of everything. I see them as a musician that has their hands in sort of a lot of different buckets. And then, I love that Dylan McDonald, who is
Dylan.
another shout out Dylan, who's another musician in the band, is someone who will totally hop on Instagram and just be like, "Yo, I'm trying out this flute riff.
Mhm,
I don't know if it's any good, but I'm going to try it out and just put it on the internet and let you see it."
mhm.
And that for me is it's fun. Again, it goes back to this idea of like the permission to fail.
Right.
Not that I see failure in anywhere in the city's music scene. But so first of all, I was supposed to do this like 15 minutes ago, but oh well, whoopsie daisy. Um, so for folks who are just joining us here on WNHH Community Radio, this is Arts Respond, in collaboration with the Arts Council of Greater New Haven. I'm Lucy Gellman. The reason I sound like a smoker today is because I have the flu, but luckily I can't give that to any of you over Zoom. And my guest is Stephen Gritz King. We're talking about a lot of things, but especially his newest album, Conversations. And I'm really, really excited to have him here. Gritz, also thank you for dealing with me while I have like frog cigar lounge singer voice. I really
No, it's
appreciate it.
no, it's cool. It's a different take on Lucy. It gives a different perspective because usually your voice is light and soft, and it's like, hey, Lucy.
I feel like I sound like a character from The Simpsons or something. So one of the tracks on the album is also called Matrimony. And we've talked a little bit about your relationship with Shaniqua and also like your relationship with God, her relationship with God, and then y'all's relationship with God together. I also know that you played the sax at your wedding, which I just think is the cutest thing in the whole world and like just so beautiful. So how is married life? Like how is married life and how is navigating married life as an artist as well?
Married life is trying to say something other than good. Married life is very interesting. I have a built-in best friend. Uh, no, but it's cool because we I think because of our intentions prior to getting married, like we already knew we already knew like yeah, God was gonna be our foundation, and her being a therapist, she already knew. You know what I'm saying? It was a perfect combination because she had things that she was like, all right, this is what I have, and this is what I need, and this is what I want us to have. I brought my stuff, so were able to work a lot of things out. So it's kind of been smooth. I mean, granted, you have everybody has their things. You know what I'm saying? I've There's definitely been a lot of growth in both of us. I know I've grown a lot. Um and because marriage is a mirror, you have somebody right there to see all your stuff. So you have no choice but to grow unless you just want to, if I held on to my pride, uh can't go anywhere. Pride is like a boulder on the train tracks of marriage. Hmm. Yeah.
In
Yeah.
Judaism, we talk about marriage being like two knives sharpening each other,
Mhm.
which sounds really violent, but I choose to believe that it's beautiful.
Right.
So yeah, um, no, I totally feel that. And then, also this, you mentioned it sort of in passing, but this decision to say I can be fully an artist,
Mhm.
and the fact that she has so empowered that decision, because I think a lot of people are told, whether it's by their parents or by their teachers or by their friends or other folks in their lives, like, oh, it's cute that you're an artist. That's very sweet,
Mhm.
but that's extra. I mean, even if we think about how arts are presented in public schools,
Mhm.
other than like co-op, and shout out um, Patrick Smith, shout out Harriet
Woo!
Alfred.
Those are my
Yeah,
people.
literally,
Oh.
I want to be both of them when I grow up. Um, and yeah, they're amazing people. But if you think of other schools, things like music and dance are presented as specials. That's
Yeah.
literally what they're called.
Right.
And you get it like one day a week if you're lucky. And so, for you, tell me about stepping into this label of like, I am going to be an artist and I am not going to cobble to prove that I can survive as an artist.
Right. I think for me, I was blessed enough to have a mother. Shout out to Stephanie King. My parents too, my pops too. My mother always had the camera. But like I knew what support was from a young age. So like from age of 5, I was playing like African drums with my aunt, who was like very influential in New Haven, Sherry Caldwell. She's a dancer, but I play, so I've been playing music for a long time, and since then, and then going into third grade to play starting saxophone, like my mother has always been extra supportive. Like I think as a parent, she has said her thing of, just make sure you have a backup, but not in a way where I felt like, oh, I can't do music. It was never that feeling. It was just like just understand all your options, but I support you fully. So and she's never wavered from that. So I think when I heard it from Neek, I was like, wow. Sometimes they say marry somebody that's like your mother or have some qualities. I was like, so that was one of the first. I was like, wow, like you believe it. You know what I'm saying? And you'll check me if I don't. If I'm saying, yeah, I want to do this, and I'm just sitting back and not doing anything. Um, so I believe that support has really helped when it comes to that because it helps me in confidence, having confidence in myself. Like I can do this. You know what I'm saying? So although like yes, I work at co-op now, but I work with the after school program. I work uh myself and Paul we run the after school program. So I'm also around the arts a little more. Um which is cool because I'm not working something that has nothing to do, you know what I'm saying? Um but it also gives me an understanding of the other parts. I do a lot of the administration work as well as being with the people in the programs. But I think that is helping because like one day, like I want to have my own academy, school, music school, arts. But you know what I'm saying? And I think that is prepare this stuff is preparing me now um to get into that space, whatever it is, however it looks. Um so student, not just kids, adults too can know like you can be an artist, a musician. You know what I'm saying? There's different avenues. You know what I'm saying? Even an actor, like I'm thankful that like even now I'm getting to do with Steve Driffen, Death by a Thousand Cuts, which is a part of my like I don't shy away from saying I'm an actor now. You know what I'm saying? So which is something else, and it's just like I'm slowly starting to see like I get paid for acting. I get paid for playing music. You know what I'm saying? There's different avenues like creating music for shows, for music, for film, for people. It's just like all these different things um that that being an artist or a musician entails. So it doesn't just have to be on playing on tour. If I don't play on tour, I'm not successful as you know. So I think having that support allowed me to look in a different ways, expand my view, and look like, oh, there's so many things that I can do. I just have to put the effort into doing them.
And oh, I'm not going to ask what's next because I feel like you just came out with this massive undertaking.
Awesome.
But but also what's sitting with you in the present. And I can't believe that I didn't mention Death by a Thousand Cuts earlier in this episode. Steve Driven, if you're listening, please don't kill me. I'm hopped up on flu medication. Um, but that is an exquisite, but I imagine also emotionally very difficult work to perform.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is. I think sometimes I downplay it because you know I don't leave crying all the time or something like that. But like it is. It definitely takes something because I'm attached to it. I'm connected to what's actually happening. The three fellas I'm working with are connected to it because it pulls from parts of our lives. So yes, in that way, it definitely is. It can be tough, but also it's empowering to be able to do it, to be able to take be the person to shoulder that weight, and it's not a bad weight to shoulder that, to be able to give it, to say, here, look, this is what's going on, and to be able to do it in such a real way. It's helped me grow, excuse me, as an artist and as an actor as well, because um I need to be able to tell a story. You know what I'm saying? And to show people what that will feel like. So that show we're only reading, right? We're reading, we're acting, we're reading, but we're not moving around. So to be able to like, it helps me to get in tune to like, how can I show you this with the limited amount of space or movement or eye contact we will have, and which I think has helped me grow in conveying these emotions. But like Steve said in after one of the shows, like we also sat down after rehearsals. We sit down at rehearsals and can debrief. You know what I'm saying? So it does get heavy, but also it's not like I'm carrying it by myself.
So as our time winds down, and I always feel like I could, have another hour with you and not get bored. But as our time winds down, I always ask folks, what else is on your heart? And it could be with this album, it could be in your work with co-op kids who are just like pulling through what has been a really hard. We're now in the third year of this
Yeah.
in like beautiful ways. And also I'm worried about them because the babies are not okay.
Mhm.
Um, but sort of what is sitting with you that you really want to share with folks?
Um, I just want people to know that like first off, so for me, I refuse to be afraid of the pandemic anymore. I refuse to be scared of it. I'm going to be safe, but I refuse to live in fear of it. Um, and I think that fear has stopped a lot of people from 2020 until now who maybe haven't had or felt like the things that they wanted to or things they wanted to pursue were pushed back and put on hold because of COVID. And to some degree it could be true, but there's always ways to start. I just want people to know like no matter how old you are, how young you are, if you believe you have a gift, you believe you got a God given gift or something that's just on your heart to do, to build, to put up, whether it's a business, whether it's the goal of breaking generational curses out of your family. You know what I'm saying? All of these things, they're possible. Um, and yes, they're not going to be overnight. Like we live in an instant gratification filled world, and I'm guilty of being somebody who like really felt like, oh, I need this, right? But just understanding that there there is hope overall, and there is hope in what you want to do. It's never too late. While you have breath, it's never too late to do what you want to do, to aspire to what you want to aspire to. And for the artists out there, keep creating, because that's our voice. I have a quote from Sawa. She doesn't know I got this quote, but I looked on her Instagram, and she said something. It may not apply, but it was it. The arts is the most authentic expression of our humanity, and racism in the arts is the genocide of our story.
Mm.
And that sat with me. So even racism aside, like don't let any of the things stop you. Don't let any of the stuff hinder the direction that you want to go. Hinder your dream. Hinder your the thing that the world needs to hear. You know what I'm saying? So for me, um, conversations was my thing that I felt like I needed to give to the world, and there were so many things stopping it that I could have just let uh, hinder me until conversations came out 5 years from now, and it probably wouldn't have had the same effect. Um, so just don't stop, don't stop. Keep going, keep creating art, and you never know who's watching you. You never know who's on the other end of your story, of your obedience to creating the thing that you're supposed to.
Mm. Shout out Salwa Abdusabor and like so many artists. I don't even have enough time to thank the number of artists, but shout out to so many of them. And Stephen Gritz King, thank you so much. We're going to go out with matrimony, if that's okay with you. I'm pretty excited about it. And and I just really quickly wanted to ask, how can people find you if they hear this interview and they're really excited about finding out more about your work?
Well, people can find me on Instagram at Gritz with a Z King underscore, and on our Facebook under Stephen King. There's a couple of them, and I have an old page that I'm not on, so it's the picture of me smiling while I'm playing keyboard. Um, and then Bandcamp, I'm on Bandcamp camp under Grits King. If you actually want to buy it, if you like the album, want to buy it, Bandcamp actually sends the funds directly to us, which is cool. You can stream it on Apple Music, Spotify, all the places, YouTube. Yeah, so it's everywhere that you would hear music. I believe it is there, and I think Instagram is the place where I'm mostly at. So, yeah.
Um, Stephen Gritz King, thank you so much. This has been Arts Respond. You're listening to WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven, and we're going to go out with matrimony. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Say if I said, please marry me. It's not a game, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm blown away by the way you wear your crown. And I'm amazed at the way you hold it down. Matrimony, matrimony, just you and me. Let's get away, a vacay to everything. Six months away till my queen is crowned a king. What will it be? Matrimony, just you and me. You and me. What will it be? Matrimony, just you and me.